Can all join palms? And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. The palms down. Everyone warm enough? So spoiled in San Diego. It's like 50 degrees and a cloud in the sky, and I'm just panicking. Anyone from the East Coast? Yeah? You feel bad for us, don't you? So who's here for the first time? Anybody? I saw your hand first. What brings you here? Welcome.
Thank you. My partner brought me.
Right on. You're to blame.
Yeah.
Who else first time? Your sister brought you. Nice work, sister. Another one to blame. Well, when they brought you, what did they tell you? Did they tell you you were going to get like pizza and beer, or what was the...
They were pretty honest about it.
Pretty honest, yeah.
I don't know. What did I tell you? She just asked, do you want to go to meditation this morning?
Yeah.
Sure.
And you said yes. Awesome. Was this a question that had been occurring for a while and you finally gave in?
Yeah, she's been here a few times.
Yeah.
And we meditate at home, mostly her.
Right on.
And so I thought that I could give it a try.
Right on. Awesome. Well, welcome. Anyone else here for the first time wants to share why? Yes.
I'm Kathleen. I'm Megan's mom. I'm from Lake Tahoe,
Yes.
so I'm from the cold country as well.
Cold country.
And just been hearing about the temple for a long time, and I'm here visiting her, so wanted to come and see it for myself.
Wonderful. I was told I needed to have my A game on today because mom was coming.
Okay.
So, yeah, I will do my best. I make stuff up every week, so I'll do my best to make up good stuff today.
Okay.
Especially. So, all right. So we'll go ahead and get started. A couple things to tell you before we begin with meditation practice. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. Anyone's mind race all day long, just thinking and thinking and thinking. Yeah. So this isn't going to shut off your racing mind, unfortunately. You won't think nothing. Often people think that meditation is about thinking nothing. You'd end up sitting there telling yourself, think nothing, think nothing, think nothing, and you might as well get up and go do something. Don't judge your practice. We judge things all day long. What we look like, what we wear, what we eat. We're constantly in this judgment mode. And the practice of meditation is learning to go beyond judgment and just abide in sensation of breath. All right? Don't expect anything. If you're sitting there waiting for some grand aha moments or some deep realizations, you're probably going to leave very disappointed. So just sit and breathe. Posture, you want to be comfortable. If you're on the cushions, often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward. Allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed, hands can be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable for you. If you're on the chairs, also just trying to sit up straight. I'll say things periodically to either wake you up because you fall asleep or remind you that you're lost in thought. If you need to move, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator, it just means your leg hurts. If you need to cough, simply sit there and cough, and you'll have woken somebody up anyway, so thank you very much. I'll guide us as we begin. We'll settle into a little bit of silence, and we'll be done in about 3 hours. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Going throughout the practice, you'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. These are not distractions, not disruptions. Simply what's happening around us as we sit. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus, to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. Expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from the practice. Just sitting, breathing. Keeping the mind alert. aware of each sound. Each thought. Each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, just as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. Most important with the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with in this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. Has nothing to do with how we sit, the hands across the legs. Has nothing to do with the Buddha statue or incense or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakening. He was a human being no different than anyone else in this room who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for every one of us in this room, regardless of where we come from, what we believe in, where we think we're going, our whole life is filled with things that happen. We react. More stuff happens. More reactions. This is it. That's what we get. This practice is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way we responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how we respond to everything else that's happening throughout our days. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. This practice is not easy. It's not necessarily fun, but it's free. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and every other person you encounter, every moment of your entire life. That's why it's so easy. You just have to be nice to people. So complicated, I know. Meditation is not an escape as often people think it is. It's not closing your eyes and pretending you're sailing down a river and looking at all the birds and trees and flowers and thinking everything is wonderful. Life is filled with chaos. This practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. It is becoming fully aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do. Because this creates your reality. Learning to think good thoughts, speak good words, and do good deeds is, to me, the essence of this practice. That's what I've learned. It's so simple, yet also so complicated. Our entire lives are not filled with typically 20 minutes of what we just had, where you're sitting quietly, breathing, and nobody wants anything from you. Nobody's telling you anything. Nobody's critiquing you, judging you, including all of those things that you might do towards yourself. So this practice is learning to take what you just did into every other area of your life. Because when we get up and we walk outside and we go back into that world is going 1,000 miles an hour, and we very quickly get wrapped up in it. We don't meditate to be good at meditation. It doesn't matter how long you can sit perfectly still and quiet and breathe and do nothing, because that's probably not what you're going to do the rest of your life. As fun as that sounds. If you stop doing everything and do nothing, people probably will wonder what happened to you. So we do this practice so we learn how to carry it into the rest of our lives. Meditation, Buddhist practice, your entire life, there's no separation between them. Often people think, well, I have my life and I'm going to go to meditation, or I'm going to go to my Buddhist place, or I'm going to go to my yoga practice, or whatever it might be, and then return to your life. The essence of this practice is to really bring all of that together. Your entire life is your practice, and your practice is your entire life. And the sooner we embody that, then the sooner we begin to recognize what causes what the Buddha called dukkha, which is suffering, angst, discomfort, dissatisfaction. The sooner we bring the mindset, a steady mind, clarity, calm, still into everything else, we begin to see what's happening in our lives, how we are impacted by it, and then the choices we make from the mind that we have. But if our mind and our hearts are filled with greed and anger and ignorance, then that's exactly the mind and heart that we're going to bring into everyone else's lives. And so we work on the practice of generosity, compassion, and wisdom to move past the greed and the anger and the ignorance that we might have. Now, I know I'm wasting my breath because I'm filled with a room of nothing but kind, generous, wonderful, loving people, always. So I apologize for wasting everyone's time. So I'd rather just stop there and open up to questions. Meditation, Buddhist practice. As always, I'd much rather address what's on your mind than go off in my own direction. So, questions? Yes?
Could you talk a few minutes, if you would, about temple etiquette for those of us that are new to Buddhism?
Oh, yes.
But it comes from a place of not like wanting to shame anybody or
Sure.
anything, but more like in Western culture, a lot of us don't know what's expected, respectful.
Yes. Absolutely. Wonderful question. It's funny because you say, can I talk a few minutes? And the question is not coming from a place of wanting to shame anyone. So I've been leading with others this temple for 12 years and doing my best not to shame anyone with these exact questions. And a little background for those who might be brand new before I get directly to it is we opened the Dharma Bum Temple, as you know, 12 years ago to be a bridge to introduce Buddhist practice to local folks. Because from my personal experience, coming from a traditional Taiwanese Buddhist practice, traditional Taiwanese cultural Buddhist temple, traditional monastery life in Taiwan, where everything has form, has ritual, has etiquette, how to bow, how to enter a room, how to leave a room, how to make offerings, what shrine piece goes in what location, right? Everything. Personally, I love all of that. And if we integrated all of that into the Dharma Bum Temple, there'd be about 3 of you sitting here right now, right? And so we started the Dharma Bum Temple to understand that all of those things have gone on for 2,500 years with Buddhist practice. Ritual, form, the stuff that in a Western sense we might call religious stuff, all of that goes on. But what I saw at the old temple, which again has always been a home to me and I love it very dearly, was a lot of Western people come in and they would go once or twice and they didn't go back. And a lot of it was because of the question you're asking, which is they didn't know if they were welcome. They didn't know if they were being offensive. And this is my judgment after 3 or 4 years with them. The average Western person didn't know if they were doing what was appropriate. And so often if you go to a place once or twice and you don't feel comfortable, you're not going back, right? Most people, right? Sometimes you're stubborn enough to say, you know what, I'm here anyways, I don't care what you all think about me. And the ironic thing is, I get asked this question weekly, and I'll eventually get to your question, but I think this context is important. I get asked this question weekly about going to what I call cultural temples. And I say, just go. You might feel uncomfortable. You might think they're looking at you like they don't want you there, but they do. They're happy you're there. They don't always know how to interact with you. Certain, cultural temples, maybe because of language or just cultural barriers, but they want you there. They're happy you're there. They're happy to show you what their etiquette is in their form. But for us, our ego comes into play in those settings. It says, I don't want a 70-year-old Taiwanese nun telling me how to bow, right? Me, I loved that. Because how many of you like being told what to do? There's about 80 of you here, and I don't see any hands. I see a couple people scratching their head, right? None of us like being told what to do. Do this, do that. So imagine going into a Buddhist temple for the first time, where you're learning to deal with your stress, your anxiety, your craziness, your madness. Those are my words, dealing with myself, right? And after 10 minutes there, some sweet little kind, compassionate, like flowing embodiment of compassion nun comes up to you and says, when you bow, you should do it this way. Most people don't like that. Some do, right? But to me, that part is beautiful. And it helps us cut through that ego that says, I don't want to be told what to do, right? And in essence, they're sharing what's dear to their heart and what they've been trained in. Now, does that make sense so far? And again, I could discourse on this for like 10 years. But now let's come back to your question, which is, what is proper etiquette at the Dharma Bum Temple? I don't know. Right? I had to, the first year or two, the expression bite your tongue a lot, because there were things that I was taught that you're supposed to do when you enter a Buddhist temple. And maybe I wasn't doing them anymore. And so when people weren't doing them, maybe I wanted to tell them, you should do this, you should do that, right? The Dharma Bum Temple, first and foremost, is here for people to feel comfortable. And I remember years ago, there was Tom, he asked a question one time about why we join palms at the beginning, right? And I gave him my response. And he sat, after about 2 years, he told a story that it always made him uncomfortable joining palms. And then one day he was at work, and he was really just in a bad mood, angry, stressed out, whatever it was. And he was at his desk in his little cubicle, and he was kind of having I wouldn't go as far as say panic attack, but not a great moment. And he said, just out of nowhere, he put his palms together. And all of a sudden, it calmed him down. And at that moment, that meant something to him. So I could give you a whole list of what Jeff would consider proper etiquette at a temple. But if it doesn't mean anything to you, then it doesn't resonate deeply with you, right? I mean, we have a shoe rack at the door, right? We kind of stop there with like setting up what we would consider temple etiquette stuff and getting people to try to understand these things. I know I'm kind of dancing around your question as I dance around every question, but what I don't want to do is give a list of things that are etiquette, or proper etiquette, because then what happens is then we start to feel, am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong? What's in your mind and in your heart when you're in a spiritual place like this is what's important, right? For me, I was taught every time you enter a temple, main shrine, every single time, you do a half bow the moment you enter. You come up to the sides and you do 3 full bows. And then you do a half bow. And then you sit. How many of you did that when you entered? You're all gone. Leave now. Right? How many of you are going to do that next time? Like maybe 2 of you will think about it, I'm just making these numbers up. But what's important is to recognize when you come in here, do you bring a sense of gratitude and appreciation to the space, or do you come in and think, where's my seat? Where's my cushion? Where's the sun? Who's next to me? Right? That's the important part. Right? I remember, maybe 6-9 months ago, I gave a talk one time about how we come in and everybody has their favorite seats. Right? You can always find, for the most part, people in the same seat. And we just get conditioned that way. And I don't know, a question came up and I went off on that for a bit. And I talked about how, again, the temple I come from, when you come in, you have your monks and nuns in the front rows, right? But other than that, you come in, you wouldn't go sit in the back. You come in and you take the first seat that's available. And then every person that comes in after you just sits down, right? I'm still blown away. I say this all the time to a few people around here who really understand. I would never go into a Buddhist temple, and never have in my entire life, and pick up stuff and start moving it around. But we do. Right? We want to move our cushions. We want to move our chairs. We just want to move stuff. We want to play with the shrine stuff. And part of me is tell people you shouldn't do that. And part of me is leave it alone because they're here. So I wrestle with those things. Because is it important? No. And if you start making it seem like it's important, you kind of run that risk of people thinking well, what is this weird place? This place is weird enough as it is. It's a Buddhist temple led by a Jewish kid in an old Christian church where none of you are Buddhist. It doesn't get any weirder than that. So I honestly could talk about this topic forever, and it's fascinating to me, And we watch it, we observe it, and at the end of the day, you're here because you want to be kinder, gentler, happier people. Yeah, that's my short answer. Other questions? Yeah.
This question follows, I think. So you always describe the Dharma temple as a bridge.
Yes.
But for some of us, myself included, it's a destination.
Yeah.
And so how does that fit into the philosophy of what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the reference metaphor I've used often and people have used over the years is that it's like training wheels, right? Dharma Bum Temple is a bridge to introduce Buddhist practice to local folks and to let people know that there are so many Buddhist temples and lineages out there. And again, a little bit of context. And that because we're not led by a nun or a monk or any master, or any guru or anything like that, we're just lay people. As I always say, we're unenlightened folks leading a bunch of other unenlightened folks. Again, no offense to the enlightened ones in the room. And so I always would say we're a bridge, we're a bridge, we're a bridge. And then someone a couple years ago, it was actually an interview, but it had come up a little bit as well. They said, a bridge to what? Right? I'm like, I don't know. And somebody said to me, well, what if you're ready to take off the training wheels? And my response eventually was, it's similar to the question of, I've been calling this Intro to Buddhism for 10 years, right? People often say, well, I've gone to the intro class 2 or 3 times. Is there an advanced class? And as soon as you think there's an advanced class, then you're not ready for the advanced class. My response often is, can you go one day with simply thinking good thoughts, speaking good words, doing good deeds all day long and not getting angry or frustrated? And if you can, then you're ready for the advanced class, right? So far, nobody has taken me up on that. He said, I'm ready. The bridge question. What I've realized, not by design, because none of this was by design, we've been making this up for 12 years, is that what I have seen over the years is, I could probably count less than 10 people that have come through the Dharma Bum Temple and have decided that they wanted to dedicate their lives in a manner that fits in, say, a traditional Thai temple or Japanese temple or Vietnamese temple. How many of you here when Thanissaro Bhikkhu was here the last few times? Tan Jeff, the Thai forest from Metaphorist. I know a lot of you have seen him. So you know the other guy who sits up here, the kind of young kid, and he sits here silently? And they call him Tom Tim, right? Tom, short for Thanissaro Bhikkhu, the teacher, and his name is Tim. So in Western, in kind of English language, we refer to him as Tom Tim. And to me, he was just Tim. He was Tim who came to Buddha for You and Dharma Bum Temple 7, 8, 9 years ago as a regular lay person like everybody here. But something woke him up, and he started going to Metaphorist. And that became his whole life. And he eventually, as a novice, I don't know the exact specifics, but basically like a novice monk, and then eventually ordained. And he is now a full-on Buddhist monk and disciple with Thanissaro Bhikkhu. A young kid, Mitch, years ago did the same thing. He didn't ordain, but we would send him to the San Diego Zen Center, Pacific Beach, go check that out. And he became so integrated into that path and that practice, it became his entire life. So for most people, Buddhism, and again, these are all just my observations and views and opinions and judgments, which are just that. Most people going to a Buddhist place once or twice a week, doing some meditation at home, most people won't do much more than that, you know? And if you want to do more than that, then there are wonderful places to go do more than that. But what I find is most people come here, they end up just coming back, right? So I used to say a bridge to other, you know, places, but that's not for everybody. And I don't know, ask me that question 5 years from now, maybe we're just a bridge to something else inside the Dharma Bug Temple. But I've yet to ponder that until actually this moment. So thanks. I guess I got some stuff to figure out. Yeah. But the truth is, like, I do get a lot of people, they always say, I want to go deeper with my practice. And so I ask them, well, what does that mean? And often people say, well, and I think you brought this up in many questions in various ways. People say, well, I'm looking for a teacher. And I say, drive an hour north to Escondido at Metaphors Monasteries, Tamasara Bhikkhu is an incredible teacher. And people say, oh, it's so far. You know, so if you're really looking for like a Buddhist teacher, the way like kind of tradition is with, you know, having a master or a Buddhist teacher, often people are just looking for kind of a guide and a friend, something like that, you know. Because if we're not willing to drive an hour for, you know, to sit with one of the greatest Buddhist teachers alive, then we're probably not ready for a Buddhist teacher. You know, we're probably ready to just continue to sit and read some books and go to meditation and, you know, listen to talks and podcasts. That's probably enough for most people. Yeah.
I think I mean it more possibly than that, not just that it's, you know, something. I mean, I did yoga for years. I never went to anything other than a beginning yoga class, and that was just me being pathetic about yoga, right? This is a slightly different question, which is, it's not exactly just wanting to be a beginner all the time, but actually a positive commitment to the philosophy of a temple that is run and guided entirely by practitioners and not by teachers.
Yes.
And so the sense of the bridge actually being the destination, and that there's a kind of deepening within that.
Yes.
It's not just, I can't be bothered.
Yes.
You know, it's like, I like this.
Can you write that down?
Yes.
And email it to me. Because whatever you just said is the gap that I was talking about that maybe 5 years from now we'll figure out. You just started to figure that out. First, I want to say, Kathy, thank you, which you do all the time, for asking a question, having me ramble on for 5 minutes on something that has nothing to do with your question, but you still sit there so intently and listen to it. And then so politely follow up with the real question. So thank you for doing that. Yes, write that down. Yeah, and email. But that's absolutely right. I mean, we are, as a place that is just run by practitioners, I think people often get there, this might be a little bit of a stretch to think about it this way, but I feel that people get there on their own without the being forced or structured. It's like there's this kind of that deeper level of commitment that you're talking about caring for a temple and things like that. There are people who do it, but it's never because we've had some structure in place that says, this is how you become a deeper level of committed member of Dharma Bums, you know? The people that I've seen on and off over the years that just pour so much into this place, rarely, if ever, were asked to do anything, you know? And so I'm always hesitant to set up that dynamic, because then you get into that power struggle still, even amongst just lay people. But there's a balance and a fine line that I would love to explore with you. Yeah. Sounds like a great thing for you to head up. Yeah. You know, we do, which I just announced, we do the Dharma Bum Life program, which is a 10-week program. We did it for 6 years, and then when the college group started, all of my time and attention with running a Dharma Life program really went into the college group, which we've done now for 7 semesters, so 3+ years. And that program kind of fosters a lot of that because you are with a smaller group of 15 or 20 for 10 weeks straight, and you're here twice a week. And so I think it's a very special bond that occurs when you, when you become part of something on that level. You know? And that's as free as everything else we do here, so don't worry. Yeah. Other questions? Meditation, Buddhist practice, how to bow. Yeah.
I have a question about the significance of the larger statue that's behind you.
Yes, that guy.
Yes.
Who is he? Do you know who he is?
No.
No, I love it. There are many reasons why I love this statue, and one of them is so people can ask, who is that guy? Right? So this is Siddhartha Gautama, who became what we call the Buddha. Right? To back up a little bit, everyone in here know the Buddha was like a human. Right? You know that he's not some big belly dude like floating in the sky. Right? He was an actual human being. He was a prince. I'll give you the life story in like 60 seconds. He was a prince, raised, father was a king, right? He was born, his mother died at birth, his aunt raised him, and 29 years he was